The Mazda CX-9 enters the 2019 model year with one very big headline. It is the first of the Mazdas to get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto implemented into its Mazda Connect system. And this is something we have been wanting to see in Mazdas for quite some time. Now, I could end my review in just saying that because since its introduction in 2016, the second generation of this CX-9 hasn't really changed much, but of course you want to hear more than that, don't you? So let's take this CX-9 for a drive, break down everything that makes this signature model rather quite interesting, and then at the end of this video, I'll determine where this CX-9 lives in my ranking system. The CX-9 really has a lot going for it, and in this top trim signature we have a lot of options that are packed in here, but every CX-9 is worth considering because they all have the 2.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, a very perky engine with 250 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque when you use premium fuel. On all trim levels, the all-wheel drive and the safety sensing systems are available, but on the lowest trim, the GS, you have to pay extra for them as option packages. But with all other trims, it will be standard all-wheel drive and the safety sensing system, so that's the blind spot warning, the lane keep assist, lane departure warning, radar assisted cruise control. It will also give you autonomous braking. Even with the entry-level CX-9, none of these trims are poorly appointed. With all CX-9s having the ability to have all-wheel drive and that perky 2.5 litre engine, you could be behind the wheel of this CX-9 and then something like a Mazda 3 hatch, a car that I actually own, and have a really hard time discerning the differences. The Mazda 3 certainly is a much firmer riding car than this, but when it comes to throwing the CX-9 into a corner, and when you want to change direction, the weighting feels the same, the movement from the weight transferring from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, it feels exactly the same. It's why this Mazda is such a brilliant vehicle to drive. And as I said in my intro, it's the first Mazda to have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto implemented into its Mazda Connect system. Now, with the use of CarPlay or Android Auto, you have to use the 8-inch screen that you see in front of you here. The most basic trim level, the GS, will have a 7-inch touchscreen. But when you're driving along, you can't use the touch screens on the Mazdas. You have to resort to the button arrangement and the dials that you have down here that are very reminiscent of BMW's iDrive system. It makes some things a little challenging when you're trying to select something with Apple CarPlay, as you have a lot of icons that you can select, and it feels like you're turning the wheel for ages to finally get to what it is you want. The lack of those user interfaces in the past were always a big negative towards the entire Mazda brand. But now that it is here as standard equipment on the CX-9, you can expect that all upcoming 2019 and 2020 models going forward will have standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration as well. Even from this distance here, you can tell that the screen isn't the highest of resolution. You can see a lot of pixel edging with these icons, and this is just at the distance where I am now, sort of an arm's length away. Now, with the poor resolution of this screen also contributes to one of the largest problems I have with the CX-9, and that's its 360-degree camera system. I remember having the exact same complaint on the Mazda 6, and yes, you have guidance lines. You can tell where the car is going to be placed, but comparing it to any other vehicle, it's really quite an embarrassment. Hopefully that's a relatively cheap fix and Mazda can sort that one out very soon. As I said in the beginning, this is the signature trim. This is the most you can spend on a CX-9, and this one goes for around $54,000. So what does it get you? It gets you this exclusive chroma brown leather, some additional stitching here in the wheel, and a tiny little LED strip in the grille that illuminates it slightly. It is hard to see unless you are approaching the car in the middle of the night. Then it is clearly defined, a nice subtle touch. In the signature, the biggest talking point is that you have this rosewood made by Santos, the same people that make guitars. And the reason this is interesting is that rosewood is actually now classified as an endangered species. Take of that what you will. It can be a good conversation starter saying that you have a rare wood species in your vehicle, but maybe if you're the more ecologically minded individual, that could potentially be a turn-off. But there's no exclusive equipment that you can get in the Signature. If you want all of the equipment you see here, you can get it in the GT. So that will give us heated and ventilated front seats. The rear row, they have heated seats as well. There's a heated steering wheel that's available in the GSL model. We've got a 7-inch digital screen right in front of us, a heads-up unit. You can find a lot of very desirable equipment in this Mazda. Some things that are missing though, you don't have a full-size glass roof or sunroof, whatever you might be looking for. That isn't available. This is it for the Mazda CX-9. And then you don't have any wireless phone charging either. So if you have to have those two options in a car, you probably shouldn't be looking at the CX-9. The interior comfort of this CX-9 is incredible. There's a lot of movement in this front seat, so for someone that's tall like me, I'm able to get down really low but still see over the bonnet easily. You can raise it very high up if you are shorter, so you don't have to worry about that exact same issue. And when it comes to second row comfort, I am very happy back there. Nothing to complain about at all. You can slide the seats back and forth. They recline ever so slightly as well. And like I said before, they are heated. I'd probably give this a struggle factor of 2. If you're looking for the most spacious third row in this class of cars, you probably wouldn't be looking at the CX-9. You'd want to look more at perhaps a Dodge Durango or Volkswagen Atlas. Those have more spacious third rows than this. For me to sit back there is really quite silly, but you really need to consider how much you are using that third row. If you have 4 children, then you'll be using it all the time, of course. Then you'll probably want a larger vehicle for interior volume. But if you use those seats once or twice a month, is it going to be harmful to you? I don't really think so. As I mentioned earlier with the 250 horsepower, that is only capable on premium fuel. When you're using standard grade gasoline, it is knocking it down to 227 horsepower. But the interesting thing is the pound-feet of torque rating never changes. You always have 310 pound-feet of torque, and you always have the ability to tow 3,500 pounds if you have the all-wheel drive system. And really, the torque is the most relevant number. Try and think of all the times you're taking your CX-9 to redline. Probably not all that frequently, but what you are doing is going from that 2,000 to 4,000 span, maybe to merge onto a highway or quickly overtake someone, and that's when the torque is crucial. You also do have a sport mode that you can engage just with this little toggle switch down here. Beyond seeing sport lit up in your center display, the only differences I can really tell is that the gears are held a little longer and the throttle gets a little more sensitive. It doesn't really need to be here. I feel like this car is already set up in a good enough driving characteristic already where it doesn't need a sport mode. For highway cruising in the CX-9, very easy. It's quieter than I remember the 2017 model that I drove previously. Now keep in mind that I am on 20-inch wheels and I also do have winter tires attached, so I am surprised that the amount of noise or lack thereof is actually penetrating its way into this cabin. If you ever have your music blaring on the 12-speaker Bose sound system, that'll make highway driving even easier. I like this neat feature, how you have the vents that kind of cut and slide along into the door cards for this silver portion here. That looks great. Feeling all the materials are pretty good. You can find some harder plastics down below, but you have this soft padding where you rest your knees up against just below the rosewood here. And there's a little bit of piano black plastic down here. The styling hasn't changed at all since the introduction of the CX-9, which is absolutely a good thing. I think this is the best looking Mazda in their entire lineup, and really I do think everything that Mazda offers is good looking, but this just seems so much bolder than the rest of them. The grille is larger, there's more presence. The CX-9 really is a great all-rounder. It's comfortable, has plenty of very attractive technology, and I think it's the best looking in its class by a country mile. Now, with the addition of Apple CarPlay, like I said, that makes it more attractive to so many more buyers. There's a few small negatives I have with the system, though. Like I said, I don't think the touchscreen is the best in the business, and it is unfortunate seeing cameras like that in a modern car such as this. But those are the largest issues I have with this specific vehicle. And then relating to other vehicles in this segment, you can find more interior space in a Volkswagen Atlas. And again, you've got to determine how necessary that third row is and how much you plan on using it. The epic looks, the above-class interior fit and finish, and the way everything feels with the addition of a really enjoyable driving experience is why this Mazda is without question a segment leader. So that's been everything from me. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. I hope you can like if you liked it, share if you think other people will like it too, and hit that subscribe button as well. That will mean the world to me. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again.